We need a full investigation. I know. Like, excuse me. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Listen. Get rid of that bullshit.
His best friend for 10 years. Okay. I'm sure that list is really forthcoming.
Yeah. By the way. Okay. Yeah.
In this one, Vincent Oshanna, Vinny from the PBD Podcast, who is a show favorite. I love this guy because he's so passionately America first, right? He goes head-to-head against Krystal Ball over the concept that the left is now projecting, basically wanting everybody on the right to forget how the left has treated them over the last 8 years, essentially. So let's go ahead and just get right into it.
Let me bring in Krystal. I want to ask you this, Krystal. Kamala Harris made a big play of abortion rights. She really bet the bank on that, delivering enough women to get her over the line. And there was this weird poll, the Seltzer poll that came out of Iowa at the weekend that really excited everyone, where she had, the normally very accurate pollster, she had Kamala up 3 in Iowa, and it was apparently women over 60 that were driving that. And the general feeling then was, wow, maybe older women in particular, who might be old enough to remember life before Roe versus Wade, may come out and punish Trump enough where they win. But they simply didn't come out in anything like the numbers people expected. And you also had at the same time, obviously, a lot of black men and Latino men going to Trump and so on. But the women just did not come out for Kamala Harris. Why? And was it that abortion in the end, yes, it's an important issue, of course it is, but not as important to the average American who can't afford to put food on the table and is incensed by the fact that at the same time of this cost of living crisis, you have nearly 10 million illegal immigrants coming over the border, which is putting huge pressure on public services. Was it they just bet the bank on the wrong issue? That actually, yeah, it's important, but not as important as I kept saying. I think it's the economy, and immigration. They're the 2 reasons that Trump is so popular.
I think that I and others overlearned the lesson from 2022, because in 2022, I was saying, oh, look at the economic numbers. Voters are saying economy, inflation, these are their number one issues. The economic numbers, by the way, were far worse at that point. And I said, it's a wrap. Like, it's going to be a massive red wave. And then that red wave didn't materialize. So I took from that this issue, which had really been a game changer in terms of the American public in a way that, frankly, I did not anticipate before. But I think part of what is different in 2024 is, number one, it's, much larger general election electorate. So that's a big change. And number two, as much as I think there are failures on the Democratic part, I also think we can't deny that Trump is this uniquely charismatic performer, and people love the show. So he outperformed every Republican on the ticket, which is also a rebuke to, a lot of Republicans who thought that they had to get rid of him because of all of his baggage. I actually think he's the most, likely to win of the Republican set. I think Ron DeSantis would have been in much more difficult terrain. So every single Republican Senate candidate underperforms him, save for, I believe, 1. So I think that's part of why. But, look, the country overwhelmingly says that we're on the wrong track. They're very dissatisfied with the economy. Joe Biden's approval rating is very low. Those are very favorable conditions for a challenger to come in and win. And so when voters say at the end of the day, economy and inflation, those are my number one issues, I believe them when they say that.
Okay, Vinny, what do you want to see Trump do in his second term? I totally agree with what Dan said, that he'll be much more conscious of his legacy because he hasn't got to win another election. So he's got a second chance that maybe even Trump, if he's honest, thought at the start of 2022 he might not have got. I thought he was dead and buried politically. I think most people did. So the fact he's won again so emphatically is extraordinary, but it gives him an extraordinary opportunity to correct the legacy that he left with last time. What do you want to see him do, and how important is it to unify America? It's so bitter, it's so divisive, American political discourse now. Would you like to see him bring people into the tent? For example, putting some people perhaps in his cabinet from the other side, bringing people in, being a genuine unifier.
Yeah, and Piers, he was already doing it. If you watch the campaign trail, he not only had Jewish Americans backing him, in Detroit, he had Muslims going on stage and saying that he has the Muslim vote again. And I do think, Piers, and just going back, Piers, the Democrats had 4 years, Piers, 4 years to prove everybody wrong and say, look at how bad Trump was. Look at what we've done. They did absolutely nothing. They got exposed and they did shit. Sorry for my language, Piers. But this is what I want him to do besides being a unifier, because I wrote some of these things down. We need election reform. Number one, here's the fact that California, Gavin Newsom, has made it illegal to even show your ID to vote. That speaks volumes on what these people want. Flying illegals to all these swing states is unbelievable. And all these battleground states, that's cheating. He has to do that, number one. Two, I want him to get all the Epstein's list, and this is not unifying, but this needs retribution. We need exposure to all these people. Epstein's list and holding all these people accountable for what they did. January 6th, we need a full investigation. I know, excuse me. Yeah, oh yeah. Okay, listen. Get rid of that bullshit.
His best friend for 10 years. Okay. I'm sure that list is really forthcoming.
Yeah. By the way, okay, yeah. Switch everything on Donald Trump. Not Bill Clinton or any of your go-to Democrats. But anyway, let me finish.
I called them
January 6th.
Donald Trump was his best friend for 10 years. So conveniently ignore that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they were best friends. Yeah. The January 6th investigation, the pipe bomb investigation, Piers, I think he needs to pardon all the people that didn't do anything wrong, that were just standing there. They got freaking 20 years in prison. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, it was an insurrection. No guns, no nothing. Nobody got killed. The only person that got killed.
The trouble, Vinny, the trouble is,
it's so funny though.
Hang on. I tell you what.
It starts with like, oh, we're going to be unified, and then it's like, here's who I want retribution.
Well, that's the point I was going to make, Vinny.
Because she wants us to forget. No, because you want us to forget. You want us to forget. No. It's classic because you, guess what? You got to go on accountability. You don't want accountability. No. Let me finish. You don't want accountability. And that's what you Democrats do. Yeah,
hold on,
accountability for all the
bullshit.
Bullshit.
This doesn't sound very unifying now. Let me just hang on, hang on, please. Hang on, just time out, please. I want time out. I want to bring in Frank Luntz, who's obviously one of America's top pollsters. Frank, we've talked a lot in this presidential race.
I love Vinny's passion. I wish Krystal Ball wouldn't have interrupted him and just let him cook there for a couple minutes. But, she did the typical Democrat thing. It seems like, I'm not saying that the Republicans or the conservatives don't ever interrupt, but it seems like every time a Republican is going on a nice little rant when it comes to these type of debates, the Democrat always has to cut in and cut them off and make sure that they can't get their point out cleanly and concisely, right? Because what Vinny was trying to say there was the way that you guys have treated us the last 4 years, the last 8 years, you want us to conveniently forget, and we're not going to forget. We want Trump to go and pardon all those folks that just walked through the Capitol building who, in my opinion, is, excuse me, that is a public building, who didn't fight with the police, who basically just walked through, stayed within the velvet ropes, and received 20 years in prison or whatever the sentence was, right? And I think the people on the left are just basically scared. They believe the rhetoric that they have espoused for the last, 4 or 5 years, 8 years essentially, and they actually believe that Donald Trump is something that he isn't. They just don't know how to cope with it, right? So hopefully there is a message of unity. I believe there is. I think Donald Trump has always wanted America to be great and better for all Americans, whether you're left or right, which is why I believe in his first term, he spent so much time trying to appease and appeal to the Democratic Party, which was kind of a detriment to his own presidency, because he spent so much time trying to make people that hate him with all of their soul, like him. He wanted to be loved by everybody, because in his mind and my mind, he was out there fighting for everybody. But instead, the mainstream media apparatus who serves the uniparty, the big money funding, basically saw Donald Trump as a threat to their power, right? To me, Donald Trump is the bull in the china shop of the establishment, right? And they just don't want him there. He's not a part of their group, which is why I love him so much. I think that he's in it for the American people and the future of our country, rather than to enrich himself. I mean, look, the dude was a billionaire before he even ran. And he's even richer now thanks to Democratic nonsense where they got him canceled off of X, and then he went and started his own social media that made him billions of dollars in the long run. It kind of reminds me of what could potentially happen with Alex Jones as they're trying to take away his InfoWars studio and basically silence him What potentially could Alex Jones do next? Wouldn't it be hilarious if Donald Trump appointed him to some type of position in the government to be able to go back after these folks? I don't know. I don't know if it would really happen. I don't actually think it would happen, but it would be kind of glorious to see the other side of that coin, right? And so look, as a Christian, as a person that wants to forgive people, I'll extend the olive branch and grant the other side the grace that none of us deserve. But, you know, if they can't change, if these folks going to just double down on their rhetoric that they've been saying about us and Donald Trump over the last 8 years, there's nothing else we can do about it. You know, forgive, but not forget. And so anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.